What's going on, everybody? This is Cody, the home theater hobbyist, and it is the holiday season, which means it's also time to buy gifts for family, for friends, and even a little something for yourself. And one of the most popular gifts that people buy for themselves is a sound bar. And I like soundbars. I review soundbars, and I often recommend soundbars. So in this video, I want to talk about the reasons why I recommend soundbars and the reasons why you should buy soundbar, but I also really want to talk about the one big reason why some people shouldn't buy soundbar. So let's get to it. So here we are with a soundbar from Sonos. This is the Sonos Beam. I reviewed it, I like it, and this is actually my Sonos. I use this in our bedroom. Now, there are several reasons why I recommend soundbars. The first one being they are relatively inexpensive. For under $500, you can get a soundbar or soundbar system, which will give you better audio quality than you can get from TV speakers. As TVs have gotten thinner, the speakers have gotten smaller. And so when you buy a soundbar or soundbar system, you're going to get better dynamic range, a wider sound stage, and overall better quality audio than you'll get from your TV speakers. The second reason why I recommend soundbars is they are typically easy to set up. You plug the power cable into the wall, you plug the HDMI cable into the soundbar and into your television, and it will work. Now, if you have a soundbar system, there may be a couple of other wires that you have to connect, but for the most part, it's pretty minimal, and that makes it very easy to set up. The third reason why I like soundbars is because they handle all the processing themselves, and sometimes they include the latest audio formats like Dolby Atmos. So you can get a soundbar with a subwoofer, side surrounds, and all of a sudden you're getting all these surround sound effects with the latest formats, and that's a definite plus. Another reason why I like soundbars is because they have a high, what I'll call spousal acceptance factor. And what I mean by that is the spouse will see it and they won't just be like, no, that's not in the house. They'll be like, oh, okay, that's cool. And they do it. They like it because of the reasons I just mentioned, but also because they generally will match in with your decor. They're not too obtrusive in the room. I mean, you can just place it under your television and it hasn't taken up a whole lot of space. There's oftentimes not a whole lot of wires running around and things like that. So for the most part, spouses will accept it pretty easy. So those are the reasons why I recommend soundbars. They have a nice ease of use and a great audio presentation, but they have one major downside, and I found that out being a reviewer on YouTube. A lot of you have asked me different questions about being able to attach a soundbar to something new. Like let's say you get a new pair of speakers, or you inherit something, or you just want to add to your soundbar. And that is where the soundbar falls down. It lacks what I call expandability. Whatever you get in the package is basically what you get. Now, there are some instances where they have limited expandability, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but basically what you get in the package is what you get. So down the line, in a year or two or three or something like that, if you want to add an additional subwoofer, or you want to add more speakers, or just use something different with your soundbar, oftentimes you can't do it. And so if you are one of those people that would like to do something like that, I honestly recommend you go with a different package. And I'm going to talk about that also in a moment. Now, as I said, some systems have limited expandability. Sonos is one of them, because with the Sonos Beam, you can buy other speakers like the Play 1, the Play 5, the Sonos Sub, and have a multi-channel system. But the problem with it is you can only use Sonos equipment. You can't buy a Klipsch speaker or a KEF speaker or JBLs or Polks or all these different types of subwoofers, SVS, SU, those types of things. You can only buy the Sonos equipment. So it has limited expandability. Another example of limited expandability is this Vizio soundbar right here. It's nice. It even comes with a sub out connection right down there at the bottom. And what that means is you can plug in a subwoofer little RCA cable, and on the other end, buy whatever subwoofer you want, an 8-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch, a 15-inch, plug it in and it will work with this soundbar. And that's beautiful, but again, it's limited. That's pretty much all you can do with this soundbar. If you wanted to add side surrounds, overhead speakers, or anything else, you can't do it, and so again, it's limited. Now, what do I recommend to replace a soundbar or soundbar system? Well, I recommend a setup like this. This is an AV receiver, or you can use an integrated amplifier and separate speakers. Now, the AV receiver / integrated amplifier is the processor, so it has all the audio format decoding and it's also the amplification. So it sends the signal and power to the speakers. Now, don't be intimidated by this setup. I'm going to put some links in the description below and in the cards up above of some home theater basic series that I've put together for AV receiver setup and also speaker placement and setup as well. But the basic gist of it is you plug an HDMI cable into the back of your AV receiver and into the back of your television. That's how you're going to get the video to your television. But you also take some speaker wire into the back of the AV receiver and put it into the speaker wire terminals on the back of the speakers. And remember, red with red, black with black. The main reason why I recommend an AV receiver and separate speakers is because it provides you the expandability that you want. So if in a few years, let's say the audio formats change 5 or 10 years from now and you want a new AV receiver, you just buy a new AV receiver and you keep your speakers. But if, for instance, you want to add more speakers and your AV receiver has the connections for it, you can always add more speakers. You can change out the speakers. You can change out your subwoofer. Basically, it gives you the opportunity to make your system to your needs. And that's what I like about it so much. For me, these speakers here, they are the Energy Take Classics. These are speakers that I owned several years ago. And you only see 3 here because I'm using the other 2 as my Atmos speakers in my home theater. I've reused them as I have expanded my system and made my system even better. And that's what you get from having a separate type setup like this. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is cost. Because a lot of people think, well, when I buy something like this, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I want a soundbar because it's cheaper. And yes, a soundbar is cheaper, but honestly, you can get in on a system like this for not much more than a soundbar system. For instance, Yamaha sells the Yamaha RX, I think it's V4A. It's right around $380 as I record this video. So you can get a nice new 5.2 receiver for $380. Now, as far as speakers are concerned, I reviewed the Monoprice HT35s. It's a 5.1 speaker system. So it's got 5 speakers and a subwoofer. They're satellites like the ones I have here, and they work pretty well. And you can get those for right around, I think, $150 as I record this video, maybe $180. So you can be all in on your new system, 5.1 system with AV receiver for just under, let's say, $550. So you don't have to go all out. And honestly and obviously, you can always buy used on eBay and different places like that to bring the cost down. And you can add different components in at a time when you can afford it. Now, the next concern I want to talk about that a lot of people have is spousal acceptance factor, because that does become a factor when you start going with separate components. One of the things you can do is, again, you can buy something like that Yamaha I mentioned earlier because it looks really nice and it'll blend really nice. But if that doesn't work, you can always go with like a media cabinet that has doors to cover up the AV receiver when it's not in use, which is quite nice. You can also bring your spouse in on the speaker decision itself. You can look at a few different speaker sets that you like and then have your spouse choose the colors. That way they match your decor even better. Now, another concern that a lot of people have is they don't want to have too many remotes because that can be annoying, and I agree. So make sure that the receiver you buy has HDMI ARC or an HDMI ARC connection on the back of it along with your television. Then you use that HDMI connection to connect your receiver to your television, and when you turn your television on, your receiver will turn on as well, and also the volume controls on your remote will turn the volume up and down on your receiver, so that way you're only really using one remote. The other concern that people have with speakers is wires. They are like, man, there's just so many cables and everything like that. Well, you can always buy some type of cable management system like this cord hider thing here to actually manage the cables and make it look really nice and neat. You can hide them under carpets, under rugs, and things like that. So again, it's a nice clean setup, but you're getting great audio quality. So a system like this is what I recommend for those of you who would expand in the future. I realize that's not everybody, and for those of you who have no intentions and no desire to expand in the future, definitely buy that soundbar system because honestly, it'll be better than your TV speakers. But if you have even an inkling that you might want to expand, you should probably look into a system like this one, because that way you can spend your money on something that you can use even farther into the future versus buying a soundbar system and then having to sell it or move it to another bedroom or something like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, drop your comments in the comment sections below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a happy holidays. We'll talk to you next time.